Picture a wealthy noblewoman of the 17th century standing in her chamber, arms lifted as her maid carefully fastens the long row of buttons on her gown. The buttons are placed on the left side of the garment, making it easier for the maid facing her to dress her mistress with speed and precision. Across town, her husband's tailor prepares a coat with buttons stitched on the right side, perfect for the nobleman to fasten himself without assistance. Centuries later, this small distinction remains stitched into our clothing, a relic of history hidden in plain sight. The story of buttons begins much earlier, though not in the way we use them today. The earliest known buttons date back over 5,000 years, discovered in the Indus Valley civilization. Made from shells, they were not closures but ornaments, a mark of beauty and, in some cases, prestige. For thousands of years, buttons served this decorative purpose until the 13th century in Europe, when the innovation of the buttonhole transformed them into a revolutionary tool. Suddenly, clothing could be fitted snugly, shaping the body in ways that laces or pins never could. Buttons became fashionable among the wealthy, often made of ivory, silver, or even gold, and encrusted with jewels. They were not just practical, they were status symbols, glittering along the sleeves and torsos of the aristocracy. By the Renaissance, buttons had become so closely tied to wealth that sumptuary laws restricted their use. Ordinary people were forbidden from flaunting extravagant buttons, as these tiny fasteners had become a shorthand for power and prestige. The sheer number of buttons on a garment often indicated one's rank. In portraits of kings and queens, rows of gleaming buttons announced authority as much as crowns and scepters. But practicality always finds its place alongside vanity, and the placement of buttons soon followed the rhythms of daily life. For men, whose lives included hunting, riding, and fighting, clothing needed to be functional and easy to fasten. Buttons were placed on the right side, convenient for a right-handed man to dress himself quickly. In battle, this orientation also allowed a man to draw his sword with his dominant hand, while keeping his jacket or tunic from snagging. It was not merely a fashion choice, it was a matter of survival and convenience. For women, especially those of high social standing, fashion functioned differently. Elite women were rarely expected to dress themselves. Servants or ladies-in-waiting handled the elaborate gowns and layers of fabric. By placing buttons on the left side of a garment, a right-handed maid facing the woman could fasten her mistress's clothing with ease. What may appear arbitrary to us today was at the time an efficient arrangement based on social expectations of class and gender. The placement of buttons became one of many subtle reminders of a woman's role in society, dependent, adorned, and assisted. Yet not all explanations are rooted in servants and swordplay. Some historians suggest another layer of symbolism in the button divide. In medieval Europe, gender distinctions were heavily emphasized in everything from language to architecture. Even in church seating, men and women were often separated by side. Button placement may have evolved in part as a cultural marker, visually distinguishing men's garments from women's, reinforcing divisions society already imposed. Whether practical or symbolic, the difference in orientation persisted and became standardized over centuries. By the 19th century, mass production of clothing had cemented the divide. Tailors and manufacturers, following long-established traditions, continued to design men's shirts with right-side buttons and women's with left. Even when the social conditions that inspired the customs, such as servants dressing women, began to fade, the distinction remained. Had become not only habit, but expectation. A woman's blouse with right-side buttons looked wrong to customers who had been trained to see the left-side closure as feminine. Fashion, after all, often clings to history long after its reasons are forgotten. Today, the practical need for button orientation is long gone. Most people dress themselves, and the chances of drawing a sword are slim, yet the tradition endures, stitched into nearly every shirt we buy. Few notice it, fewer still question it, and almost no one knows its origins. That's the strange power of fashion. It carries with it centuries of social history, hidden in plain sight. So, the next time you fasten your shirt, consider the story beneath your fingers. A tiny piece of history about wealth, servants, gender roles, and even survival still lingers in every buttonhole. What seems like an arbitrary design choice is actually a living fossil of human society. A reminder that the smallest details in our daily lives often carry the weight of the past.